Am I anxiously attached? Welcome to a new episode. This episode is for you if you have heard about attachment theory and if you're wondering, do I have an anxious attachment style or maybe a disorganized attachment one? Also, if you already know for sure you are anxiously attached and maybe are already in your journey in becoming securely attached and want to recheck to see where are you at now. Did you become more securely attached? Knowing this about yourself can be very powerful. It's not about putting yourself in a box, for sure not. It's about having a roadmap for yourself. It is one of the most empowering things that helped me in my journey in helping me with my anxiety and how I showed up in my relationship with my avoidant partner. And I know there are some people out there who are using a label to really disempower themselves, feel helpless. So this is a little disclaimer to say, you know what, this is nothing to feel disempowered by. Don't feel ashamed or worried that you have this label put on you. This is really something really beautiful, because if you know, hey, you know what, this is why you're feeling anxious and worried and more insecure or jealous in some areas. Now this can be your path in becoming more secure and empower yourself, because in the end it's our core wounds and beliefs and thoughts that create our emotions. And it's the good news, because now you can actually do something to change that. And just to blame it on something, on attachment theory, on our partner or external circumstances, that's not going to help us. But we can use it as a tool to really help us in this journey. So for me, really everything has changed when I realized I am anxiously attached, and also I can become more securely attached. So if you want to use this tool, feel free and message me below the YouTube comment. What is your outcome? What is your results? And if you also want help with that, if you have an anxious attachment style, or maybe if you are more disorganized attached but leaning anxiously and want my help, but also worked through the bigger traumas. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Jula. I'm the Anxious to Secure coach, and welcome to the Anxious to Secure podcast. Disclaimer, I'm not a therapist or doctor. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or heal any mental health condition. If you're in an abusive relationship or dealing with severe mental health challenges, always seek professional advice. And just as a reminder, attachment theory is always on a spectrum. So you could have a main attachment style and then like a second one. For example, you could be mostly securely attached, leaning a little bit anxious, or you could have a main attachment style of being disorganized attached and then leaning, for example, either more avoidant or more anxious as well. So let's go into this more. I'm going to start giving you 10 questions. Please get your pen and paper ready, or save this episode for later. If you haven't got time yet, let's go through this step by step. Just note down A, B, C, or D, depending on what answer it is. And also just to let you know, this is just general information. Attachment shows up in also friendships and family and even at work, but it comes out the strongest in romantic relationships. So when you answer these questions now, the following 10 questions, think about your dating life or your partner mostly, or if you're single, about your ex relationships, about your ex partner. However, if you want to find out your attachment style in your friendships or family, think about these relationships as well as a main source. And at the end, I go through your answers, what they mean, and I share what each style looks like a little bit more in depth in everyday life. And I break down the difference between anxious and disorganized attachment style, especially because there's a difference, and often we get confused or are not sure what the difference is. So here's the quiz. Question 1 is, when I don't hear back from my partner, do I trust they will reply when they can? B, I overthink, worry they don't care about me? C, I feel relieved to have some space? Or D, I panic and feel like pulling away at the same time? What is your first gut instinct telling you? Write down the answer. Question number 2, how do you react in conflict? A, I can stay calm and talk through it. B, I get fear being left and want reassurance. C, I shut down, maybe avoid the situation or go quiet. And D, I swing between clinging and pushing away in the same fight. 3. My biggest fear in love is A. Losing the connection and respect. B. Being abandoned and rejected and that I'm not good enough. C. Feeling trapped and smothered. D. Both being abandoned and being controlled and fear of being vulnerable. The 4th question. As a child, my caregivers were mostly A. Consistent and emotionally present. B. Sometimes warm, sometimes distant. C. Distant, shut down, more uncomfortable with emotions. And maybe there is one caregiver who was a little bit controlling, maybe too smothering as well. That could be also possible. And D. More scary, maybe a little bit abusive, unpredictable, fearful. Now, the 5th question. Remember to write down each answer if it's A or B or C or D for each. Question number 5 is, when my partner asks for space, do I A. respect it and I'm okay with it? I'm able to detach from this situation. B. I worry, panic, overthink, and maybe think about they might leave me or I'm not good enough and take it personal. C. I feel relieved. Maybe I even prefer it in that moment. I like space for myself. D. I feel desperate for closeness but also kind of want to run away. I'm out. 6. I feel most loved when A. There's consistency and respect. I can love myself, but I also feel loved when I'm in relationships. B. I feel mostly loved when my partner reassures me often and through possible physical closeness as well as emotional closeness. C. My independence is really respected as a main sense. Then I can really feel loved and respected, and then I can create more closeness within the relationship. D. I get closeness, but not too much because too much feels a little bit more scary. The 7th question is, how do you react when you're feeling stressed? A. I can ask for support, but also handle things by myself. B. I feel more anxious and immediately seek comfort when I'm stressed. C. I withdraw and deal with it alone. D. I want comfort, but also push it away. And the 8th question is, in relationships, I usually A. balance closeness and space. B. I do overthink a lot, need reassurance, and sometimes I do get jealous. C. I keep distance, avoid more deep emotional talks. And D. While in relationships, I usually go on more like a roller coaster. I want closeness and connection, but intimacy feels very scary and I'm quite impulsive as well. So I run away if there's a lot of things that I don't like. So now pause for a second and add up all the amounts of A's and then all the amount of all of the B answers, then all of the C's and all of the D's, and check out how many you have of each and which one comes on top. If you come out with this quiz with mostly A's, means you have mostly a secure attachment style. If you have mostly B answers, you have mostly an anxious attachment style. Also, no worries here. If you have only C answers, or you are actually avoidant attached. So maybe you might be more like a partner here you're listening. So maybe you want to share this podcast with your partner who might be more anxiously attached, who might really benefit from my podcast. If you have D answers, that might be you have a disorganized attachment style, at least as a main attachment style. That's also not a problem. Remember, everything is just information here. And again, as a reminder, all of our attachment styles are more on a spectrum, right? So you might be a mixed, you might be having mostly D answers, so might be more disorganized attached. But if you have also lots of B's, meaning you might be disorganized attached, but leaning very anxious as well. So if you have A answers mostly, meaning you have a secure attachment style, so you feel comfortable with both closeness and independence. Maybe you can spend a weekend apart from a partner without overthinking or making it mean anything about your relationship or your worth, and you trust they will reach out when they can and when they feel ready to, and you can also enjoy your hobbies on your own without really just thinking and obsessively worrying about them. You're also pouring into yourself and into your own hobbies and achievements and all of this. In arguments, you can stay calm and express your needs and listen without panicking and being curious, putting yourself into their shoes as well, and don't take everything too personal. And your nervous system has really learned it's safe to rely on others, but also to rely on yourself. So if you have mostly B answers, so that means you're mostly anxiously attached, like how I used to be. So you might crave closeness and reassurance and validation a lot. And you really worry that people will either leave or reject you and not like you, which is like kind of a threat for your safety, right? So some micro examples could be you check your phone multiple times if they don't reply. And you chase maybe a little bit harder when they pull away, especially if they just show more inconsistent patterns. You overthink about lots of things. If they are a little bit moody, if they have a stressful day, you will read into micro signs of mood swings, tone of voice, if they have added an emoji or if they were showing up a bit more colder. And you might feel maybe jealous or insecure even if nothing is happening. So you're jumping into conclusions and basing your conclusions based on an emotion rather than based on the pure facts. And you want to resolve conflict very fast. Like you have this go, go, go energy, just letting things unresolved or talking about this the next day or the next week feels very like heavy for you. You want to solve things fast, you want to talk things out, while you probably are drawn to the avoidant people who rather want to avoid things or need more time to think about certain things. And that makes you more anxious because you want to really focus on things that are often outside of your control as well. In childhood, your caregivers, your mom or your dad, for example, were maybe more inconsistent, sometimes loving and warm, sometimes maybe more like distant or snappy or unavailable or busy with their work, or your siblings. And your nervous system has learned, I need to stay close or I might lose them. And you take it personal because everything we take personal as kids. So you think you're not lovable, you're not good enough, or you're too much. Maybe you're very sensitive as well, like I am. So if you have mostly C answers, I doubt it because this podcast is more for like anxious attachers, but just in case, you have an avoidant attachment style. So you value independence, often seek emotional distance to feel safe. You do want closeness, but really just in small amounts and dosages. You feel really relief when your partner asks for space. You love spending, like let's say, like a weekend with your partner, but then afterwards you do need your space again and really long for things like adventure and freedom and independence, while still also having a craving for connection and love. But anything that is a threat to your independence is a huge sign of, oh my god, you might feel trapped, like, talking about marriage, commitment, buying a house, creating a family will make you feel more and more like you're losing yourself. And that is because in your childhood, your caregivers were more like distant, and maybe some of them were more emotionally distant or physically distant, while maybe like one of them were like very hovering, like like a helicopter parent. So you really learn that emotions are very uncomfortable, discouraged a lot. So your nervous system has to really learn, I am only safe when I rely on myself. I can trust them with information. I'm not being hurt here. So in conflict, then you tend to shut down. You don't even share your thoughts because you're not being heard. You withdraw, minimize issues, because that's what you've been learned from your childhood. And then if you have mostly answers with a D answer, you might be disorganized attached. So you feel a mix of really wanting closeness, wanting love, but also being scared of it, especially being vulnerable. It's like this huge scary thing because as a kid in your upbringing, you were raised in this really fearful, scary, chaotic upbringing where if you're being vulnerable, that led to something dangerous, of abandonment or where maybe you were manipulated, where your parents were maybe not a source of safety, and now being vulnerable is something very scary that your nervous system is not used to. So right now you're going through this roller coaster of emotion. You cling to your partner at one moment, and then as soon as something happens where you feel like, hey, you know what, I can't trust that, or can I really trust this? I'm not sure. You run away, or you could be explosive. You maybe raise your voice, or shut down, or make them out to be the problem. Or you still, you want reassurance and you want this, but you feel overwhelmed by it. So you could freeze up and explode at the same time. And you might have even like a people-pleasing, fawning tendency, really overly focusing on what the other person does versus on focusing on you and filling your own cup. And again, that is really on caregivers who are maybe more frightening or abusive or unpredictable, and your nervous system really felt unsafe and overwhelmed. You didn't had what you needed to feel secure, and there was no predictability in your upbringing, and everything was more like up and down. And for a baby and kid, it's very important that there's a predictability. It's a stable, consistent, secure environment to create this sense of safety. And the core difference between really anxious and disorganized attachment style is more so for someone who has an anxious attachment style, there's this persistent fear of losing a loved one, being rejected. That is always like hovering above, what if my partner leaves? What if this person rejects me? For someone who has a disorganized attachment style, this fear is usually coming from trauma, from really bigger traumas, not just from inconsistent care. So their root cause is really the biggest difference here. So, while I used to have an anxious attachment style, I didn't go through big capital T traumas and events like this, just more like through micro moments, through me being very hypersensitive and through allergies and all of these that created a sense of, there's some inconsistency happening in my environment. However, someone who has more disorganized attachment style, there was really bigger traumas happening, either one big huge trauma or lots and lots of bigger traumas happening consistently as well. So their needs were consistently not met. So as a takeaway for everyone, you are not broken. Attachment is just a survival strategy and also just a theory. Your nervous system also has just developed to stay strong and to get through this better, and you can move towards a secure attachment style. The most important message in every episode, no matter what style you are identifying as, that is really neuroplasticity. It means your brain can rewire through new experiences, through repetition and emotional work. You might have one primary style. Let's say you're being mostly anxiously attached, but you might also show traits of being a little bit avoidant, a little bit secure. And again, you can become more and more secure every day, not through this one big thing, not going through a retreat once or doing a massive meditation once a week, but through micro actions every day. And awareness is the first step, and curiosity and tools applying them consistently is another step. And I know lots of people have gone through therapy, and it's important, but you also want to learn the tools to actually apply these things in their everyday work. And by the way, if you want to do my 3-minute attachment style quiz, like a little faster way of really figuring out, hey, you know what attachment style am I? If you're still not sure here, or if you want to double check based on this quiz and the outcome, what attachment style you are on, or are still a little bit confused about if you're anxious or disorganized attached, do this quiz. I'm going to link it in the show notes again for you to double check, and also to go back to any time later on if you're becoming more and more secure, to really check, and hey, where am I actually right now on my journey? And another important message I want to give you is that you don't need your partner to show up differently. A huge misconception I used to have years ago when I figured all of this out, and before that, because that's where the anxiety comes from. when you focus on things outside of your control. So you don't need to get more reassurance from other people, you don't need to even watch more of these podcasts, even though I love it when you're here, or read more self-help books, fix yourself more, do all of these crazy things just to teach yourself, hey, you know what, there's something broken with me, I have to do all of these things, I need to be different. No, you just might want to unlearn some patterns that your body and your nervous system has learned to protect yourself from, to regulate your nervous system and show yourself that you are already good enough and worthy and lovable, and that you can be your own secure anchor from within, that you don't need other external factors to create security for yourself. Because if other people can define your worth or your safety, then they are in power of, they're in charge of how you feel every day, and that's terrible. So we want to empower you, and if you want my help, I do monthly coaching subscriptions, either via video or text. Cancel any month. There's no commitment here. Just check out the links below. You can jump on a free call with me to check if you're a right match. You can share your information with me, your situation, or email me, because I need to make sure we are the right match. So check this out. As a client of mine used to say, you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Literally, you can cancel any month. You can test it out on the WhatsApp and Telegram coaching support. That's also a free trial for the first, 7 days. So absolutely no risk. But imagine the possibilities when you really focus on what you can control, when you regulate your nervous system, when you challenge your limiting beliefs that people believe that you're not good enough, and when you can learn to meet your own needs that were unfulfilled in your childhood. Give them to yourself first. Learn to communicate from this grounded place in your relationships and date from that place as well. And then imagine how you then break the cycle of being attracted to emotionally unavailable guys, and if you want to get out of the relationship even, but are afraid because the fear of abandonment is keeping you stuck, then this work will be also extremely empowering. You don't want to wait another 5 years or 10 years being stuck in the same cycle and adding more emotional layers and wounds on top of this. It's never too late. And if I can do this, you can do this too. And some of my clients even said this work can be actually fun. It's not as heavy and scary as it seems. Sometimes there are periods where it can be a little bit heavy when we avoid emotions and avoid the work, but actually when you jump into and figure things out about yourself and learn tools that actually work, it's actually very exciting. That's what I found for myself too, when I realized, I am in charge of my life, of my relationship, and it creates an impact for me. So anyways, I'm very excited. Thank you for listening so far. Check out the free resources as well in the links, and I'll see you in the next episode. Let me know what else you want to learn about, hear about, share your stories, connect with me via email. Remember, change in your relationship starts with you. Thought by thought, action by action, and episode by episode. Bye bye, Yula.